Brace yourself for an out-of-this-world episode. We're diving into 3 jaw-dropping UFO encounters that defy explanation. Lights in the sky, unexplained sightings, and encounters with the unknown. Get ready for a wild ride through the mysterious and extraterrestrial. Tonight on Newsworthy. 2 words and 2 question marks.
He's alive!
Have you checked the children?
Get out!
You have scoured the podcast world and finally found us, Newsworthy with Steve and Jerry, where we delve into all things mysterious, macabre, or out of this world, and decide if they are truly newsworthy. 2 words and 2 question marks.
Hello, I'm Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Tax season is upon us. Did you know that 47% of Americans are planning to use their tax refunds for everyday expenses, home improvements, and vacations? What if you used your tax refund for a new home instead? Again, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Your tax refund can be used towards down payment, closing costs, or paying down existing debt to help get approved. So before you spend that tax refund, let's get together and see how to best utilize those funds to invest in your future and your new home. Call or text me at 502-680-0953. Again, that's 502-680-0953. NMLS ID 448908, DAS Acquisitions, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, NMLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
Sorry.
That is still making you laugh.
It is.
It wasn't nearly that funny.
It was. Hey guys, welcome.
Hello,
Welcome
everyone.
to the delayed version of our podcast this week.
Which means we had way more time to prepare, but
Probably didn't take advantage of it.
probably didn't.
Well, I don't know. We've just covered 4 different topics.
We
so-
did just spend 2 hours talking about a bunch of different topics.
Your comment reminded me of a term that I heard the other day for the first time ever. I'm sure you guys and most of our audience has heard it. Bed rot. You guys heard of that?
No, I'm not.
Apparently, last year on this weekend, a term began to trend called bed rot. 3-day weekend, right? President's Day, Monday, so 3-day weekend. The term began to trend because bed rot apparently means you lay in bed all day. You don't get out. You lay in bed and you sleep, you stare at the ceiling, you binge watch some show, bed rot. So, yeah. An extra day for your weekend. Did they take advantage of it? Many of them, like us, not taking advantage of the extra time we had. No.
That's an interesting term because you think about like, oh, I get that 3rd day and I'm just going to lay in bed. You think you'd be all rested. But every time I've done something like that where I'm just laid in bed all day and watched Netflix like you were talking, I feel worse.
Many times.
I don't feel rested. I feel like, man, I need another day to
I
recuperate.
don't do that. I can't. It hurts me. Hurts my back. Hurts my legs.
Yeah, our
hurts
bodies are
whatever.
meant to move. Like we're meant to work. We're meant to.
Oh,
I
man.
agree.
Man, I tell you what, it got bad last week, guys. It got bad. When your doctor tells you can't drive anymore, sometimes you run out of food, sometimes you run out of stuff. I had to steal. This is embarrassing. I had to steal from my neighbor's herb garden last week, just to survive.
Just to survive.
Yeah, I was living on borrowed time.
Oh man.
Yeah. Had to have that time.
That was good.
That was.
I like it.
Actually, I really don't even like thyme. It's one of my least favorite herbs. The only herb that I like less than thyme is cilantro. I
you don't
You
like
hate
cilantro?
cilantro.
I hate it.
Really?
There's two groups of people: people that like cilantro and people that think it tastes like soap. I'm in the soap category. I can't eat a Qdoba because they have so much cilantro and everything.
I don't know. I get what you're saying about the soap taste, but
Yeah, I don't.
I've never really thought about it, to be honest.
Can't
I just
do
always
it.
eaten it. I don't know.
And the time it's an Italian season. They put a lot of Italian stuff, and you can. Jerry and I have this conversation, and I'm going to put it out to the folks. There is a definite difference between pizza sauce and marinara sauce, but in most marinara, it usually has a lot of thyme in it, and it's.
Well, you told part of the story. And I wouldn't have brought it up, but since you did, I'm telling the rest of the story. As Mr. Paul Harvey would say, here is the rest of the story. Mr. Steve does not like and refuses to eat any tomato that's cooked.
Yeah, I don't like
Spaghetti
tomatoes.
sauce, marinara sauce, refuses, absolutely detests cooked tomatoes.
Yeah,
unless you put it in a jar and write pizza sauce on the label. Suddenly, cooked tomatoes become perfectly fine. I've kidded this guy for years, and I always tell him I'm going to do it, that I'm going to take some marinara sauce, pour it into a pizza sauce. I guarantee there's
the
no way.
difference.
There's zero way.
I will know the difference.
He will eat it, love it, ask me for the recipe.
That's not true.
So I'm the opposite. I don't like tomatoes.
At all.
Hate
But
tomatoes.
we'll eat.
But we'll eat anything
sauce.
tomato based. I mean, salsa. I love ketchup. Love marinara sauce. Love pizza sauce. I mean, anything. Even pizza with tomatoes on it.
Oh, no.
But just like regular tomatoes, I hate tomatoes. I hate tomatoes on burgers. I hate tomatoes on. I mean,
Dude, there is nothing better. And I'm from Kentucky. Obviously, you guys know this. There is nothing on this planet better than taking a fresh loaf of bread, a fresh package of Oscar Mayer bologna, slapping a piece of that Oscar Mayer on the bread, going to the garden, picking a beautiful red tomato, slicing it, putting it on that tomato, and having a sandwich. I'm
good.
telling you what, that's
It's good.
eating.
I don't think I would say nothing better.
I'd be hard.
I wouldn't
pressed
say
to
nothing
what-
better, but I would say
It's
I don't
pretty
want the
good.
tomato, but I'll take a bologna sandwich.
I like bologna, especially when it's fried.
Oh,
I love
bologna,
fried
I like.
bologna. Oh
fried
man!
bologna is delicious.
And when you think about what bologna is, it's kind of gross.
Not kind of.
I mean, it is gross, but like, it tastes so freaking good, man.
Let's just stop that conversation because I'm a very
You're a bolognaist.
I am a very discerned eater, and if I get something stuck in my head, I
Which
can't
he has
eat it
with,
anymore.
like,
Pizza sauce.
it's not
That's
just
not
pizza
true.
sauce. And when I said he doesn't like cooked tomatoes, I mean he doesn't like cooked tomatoes. The man will not eat ketchup.
I don't like ketchup.
That's tough, man.
Well, not only ketchup, he doesn't eat condiments.
I don't like
There
condiments
are
at
no
all.
no
condiments.
mayonnaise.
A little
No
on the
mustard?
side, he might dip something in, like
You
ranch
use
dressing.
A1.
Yeah, but that's different.
A1 is a condiment. What do you mean?
And what's the number one ingredient in A1?
Tomato sauce.
I don't get it.
See, I don't
Do
eat
not-
A1.
You know
with my steak.
what I find really
I
funny
didn't know
about
you liked
A1 sauce?
What's that?
Is that sometime during the middle of the bloodiest conflict our country has ever known, the Civil War, someone decided, you know what we need right now? A great or a great steak sauce. And they developed A1
Are you serious?
right in the middle of the Civil War. Yeah, check it out. It says established, and it's literally dead center. in
I don't
the
Yeah,
use
Civil
it.
but
I
I'm
don't use
guessing-
A1 because
At all?
no, because if you cook a steak right, you don't need
Oh, I
A1
agree.
sauce.
I'll use A1, but not on steaks.
Yeah, but y'all cook your steaks wrong.
So, yeah.
Yeah, if you-
We don't
You
turn
don't.
into a...
You don't.
the juices
Hockey
are
puck.
already in the steak. I don't need to moisten it more with the A1.
Well, he has to moisten his with something because he cooks it. until it's
Yeah.
Like 100
Now, if I
There
get
you
my
go.
steak
There
well
you
done,
go.
I'm
There
drowning
you
that
go.
A1 sauce on the steak. But my medium rare
There we
steak
go.
does not need A1 sauce.
You know, all this reminiscing reminds me. I've noticed that every time that I get in my car and put it in reverse, I get sentimental.
You do.
Takes me back. Every time.
Oh man.
You know it's good when it requires a moment of silence.
You said, it takes you back. I was thinking about this past week. So I told a joke on a Teams meeting at work.
Steve, you okay over there, bud?
Steve is struck one.
I'm sorry. Please continue, Brett.
I'm gonna wait.
Oh, go ahead, Brett. I'm good. That was good, Jerry. Props to Jerry for that. All right.
Oh,
So I told a joke on a Teams meeting at work last week. Nobody laughed.
why not?
Turns out I'm not even remotely funny.
Oh, not even remotely, huh?
Teams meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that joke.
Oh. Brett.
Oh man.
You remind me of Stairs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're always up to something.
Up to something, huh?
Oh my gosh. Sorry, I got two in tonight.
It's a good night. Or
Oh, my goodness.
afternoon.
Man, my head's still sore.
For what?
I got hit in the head the other day with a soft drink.
Oh yeah.
Thankfully, it was soft.
Wow.
He said he got two, and I couldn't
You had to.
turn down my opportunity.
Oh man.
That was so depressing.
I like that. So depressing. That's the best one you've had in a while. Third one of the day. I'll let you take the title with that one.
Brett's over here just shaking his head. He's done. He's cooked.
cooked.
My goodness. Okay,
Just
so,
like Steve's steak. Cooked.
yeah, done. Done.
Overcooked.
No, done. Simply put, it's done. Well,
Mine's
done.
done, and you cook it for another 37 minutes
Right.
beyond that.
Oh
Indeed.
man.
All right. So we got a great show tonight.
We hope.
We hope. I would like to start the show. If you listen to, and a lot of you did, you downloaded the episode where we were telling you that we were just delayed. I'd like to go back and clarify that a little bit. First of all, apologize. I sounded like death. But I wanted to my intent was not to scare people away from being treated for cancer. Treatment does suck sometimes. There's no way around that. But as you can tell by tonight, night and day difference between that guy and the guy you see today. That guy was the culmination of 3 weeks of a very restricted diet, of not having the type of medicine that I will require the rest of my life. I had to have, because of the cancer, I had to have my complete thyroid removed. Your thyroid, for all of its little bitty purposes, does an immense job inside the human body. Controls all your hormones. It controls the pituitary and the pineal gland. You can become confused. You can become angry. You can be thin. You can be fat. It controls so much. And when you don't have a thyroid and you don't have the medicine to replace the thyroid hormones, then you end up doing what I did, which was the thing that made my doctor make me stop driving, which was you look in the refrigerator for 10 minutes for toothpaste and then get mad because you can't find it.
Yep.
Or you drive to work and you drive to the place you haven't worked in 10 years. And you're sitting there like, what the hell am I doing here? And then you figure it out and you go to your real work. I will
You
say
did that one too.
I did that one too.
Yep.
I just But my doctor nailed it. He said, we're going to hit you with this dose of radiation. And that's the main reason for the delay. We could have done a all remote show. Jerry has very young grandchildren that he deals with on a daily basis. Brett has very young children and one on the way. I was highly radiated, had to isolate upstairs. Would have been almost impossible to. Our show was so based on being able to see each other and interact with each other visually and cue wise and how we speak. And when we first started it, it was really tough to, we stepped on each other a little bit, but now we've kind of started figuring all that out. So it would be very difficult to stop doing that, do a show, and just not be all over everybody. And finally, we've done this for almost 2 years. In May, it'll be 2 years we've done this. And I believe that the product gets better every week. And you deserve that. So if it means we delay a few days to get you that product that you deserve, that's what it takes. Now, did last week suck and the week before that suck for me? Yes. Does cancer suck? Yes. I wouldn't recommend 1 star. Do not recommend any form of cancer. But there's a lot of people out there dealing with a lot worse than what I had. And I don't want to belittle what they're going through. Pray for them, love on them. If they need something, help them out. It's a lot, but it's worth it. Everybody has somebody, whether you know it or you don't know it, that's loving you, that's taking care of you, that's looking up to you, that feeds off of you, that you matter. So take care of yourself. I just want to, one more thing about it. I'm 48. Brett, you're
26.
26. Jerry's 158.
Your
Give or
age
take a
plus
few
10.
years.
When you get to be, they change the dates as to when you should start this or start that or do whatever. The one thing you can do, regardless of how old you are, is just be self-aware. If there's something different about your body that you're not used to, check it out, fix it, look at it. If you're concerned or have a thought, go to your doctor. I had one small bump come up on the base of my neck, and my surgeon very specifically said, had you not checked that out, by the time we found you had cancer, we wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. And it doesn't spread too far, even though you have one of the most treatable forms of cancer that we know of. It's very targeted. We can kick its ass. You move on with life. You're very blessed. But if you'd let that go, it would have been in your lungs and your esophagus, and it would have just kept going. It was aggressive. So if you see something, say something. That involves your own body too, and regular visits to your doctor. We're going to pray that we're through that. I have to do one more scan. I have to do a scan every year just to make sure it stays gone. But that's so small compared to what some people fight every single day with this stupid disease.
Yeah.
So I'm very blessed. Thank you for having patience. You two guys, thank you for the listeners. And I just want to throw it out there. Take care of yourself. Now, let's get to the episode. We got 3 stories, very unique, different stories tonight, just like we talked about in the teaser, that we have 3 stories that involve real, and I'm using air quotes because we weren't there, we don't know, but very real to the participants of alien invasions or alien attacks that do not involve War of the Worlds, that does not involve, Independence Day. These are things that scared the bejesus out of the people that were involved in it. And my story in particular raised the hair on my arms when I was reading it. I was like, holy crap, what would I do in this situation? So we're just dive into it. Hopefully we can cut this down into a show length and we can make it happen. But who wants to start tonight? I didn't even figure that out before we started.
I mean, I can start if you want.
Brett, my hero.
I will.
Go for it.
I'll volunteer as tribute.
All right, so Brett tonight is covering the Battle of Los Angeles, 1942. Is that right?
42, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something that I was actually talking to my wife before I came here. I was like, just thinking, like, just doing this podcast has opened my eyes to a bunch of things that I'm like, why the heck did we not learn about that in history class? It's like, where was this? And when I was like learning about, World War II and
on that vein, if they just sprinkle this, is this a whole day of study? No.
No. Right.
But how fun would it be to say, and
Right.
this also happened.
Yeah, how many people would be more interested in history if we just peppered in some of these little stories of like, this is crazy, we don't know what happened, but this happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it
this
happened.
is a real thing
Right.
in history.
It happened.
Regardless of what
We don't
happened.
know what happened, but something happened. This is one of those stories. The Battle of Los Angeles. So this is also known as the Great Los Angeles Air Raid. So this actually took place from February 24th, 1942 to February 25th, 1942. So just a day and a half.
One of the most devastating attacks on
Jerry and his Google
Did we not
commercials.
say to silence your cell phones at the beginning of this podcast? maybe we need to start with a podcast with that.
webpage for the Battle of Los Angeles.
maybe
So
maybe
far.
we just need to start the podcast with, please silence your computers before we. Anyways, so this was less than 3 months after the U.S. entered World War II in response to Pearl Harbor. So just think of the state that America is in at this time as you're hearing about this story. So about 2:30 a.m. on February 25th, the people of Los Angeles were awoken by air raid sirens and ordered to black out and prepare for an attack. So I'm just putting myself in this situation. Pearl Harbor was just attacked. Japan we've already declared that we're going to war with Japan. We're sending our troops to Europe to fight in World War II. I'm freaking out right now at this point. I mean, I'm just thinking of. I actually have a funny story. So, my whole life, again, I'll try and keep this short, but my whole life I've lived in the country. So, whenever we heard tornado sirens, it was very far in the distance, like very, very far. Like you could make them out a little bit. So, within the last year, I moved into a neighborhood, and the first time that the thunderstorm sirens started here, I was like, what the heck? What the heck is happening? I was like, is there like a bombing going on? Like, what is going on? No, this is a thunderstorm sirens. I was so close to the thunderstorm sirens. I was like, this is literally right outside my door. Anyways, I just thought that was I'm just thinking of like what these people were experiencing. Just hearing these sirens going off, ordering to black out, prepare for an attack. I'd be freaking out. So searchlights were scanning the skies for an aircraft. They finally converged on a single aircraft, which was pictured in the LA newspaper at the time. If you look up the Battle of Los Angeles, you'll see this picture. It's the first one that pops up. So the day before this happened, just to give some background, a Japanese submarine surfaced, shot at an oil field around Santa Barbara, and then just disappeared. So when this happened, again, Pearl Harbor had just happened a couple months ago. Everybody was ready for something to happen within the next 8 to 12 hours. Everybody was on high alert. The whole West Coast was just, they had curfews in place in some areas. So everybody was on high alert. Radar was the first to pick up on some flying objects around the coast of Santa Monica, which is where it started. Anti-aircraft batters were told to shoot on sight anything that came into view. The aircrafts disappeared from radar at one point, but were then still sighted by civilians. Some reported seeing one large ship. Some reported seeing multiple ships flying in formation. Some reported seeing 6 airplanes that looked to be Japanese, Japanese aircraft. Again, and what I was telling Jerry and Steve before, this really reminds me of the Phoenix Lights. If you guys watched that episode, in the Phoenix Lights, people were reporting seeing, one huge ship, and then some people were reporting, oh, we just saw a bunch of ships flying in a V formation, or, there was various reports. This reminds me a lot of that. So again, there was many civilian sightings of aircraft, whether it be, again, one large ship or many flying in formation. The flying object eventually turned south and disappeared over Long Beach. So, again, this happened so quickly. Again, within a day, within a 24-hour period, we shot over 1,400 high explosive utility shells and countless 50 caliber rounds on this objects. Depending on what source you're going off of. Several people on the ground died of car accidents or of heart attacks from just the stress of the event. No evidence was found of any crashes, and no evidence was found of any bombs being dropped. No, whatever we were firing at was not firing back at us. All of the damage was from friendly fire. So, before I continue, I just want to stop here and just ask you two, just hearing this, I know you guys have kind of researched this event, just hearing this point of we are firing at this object with everything we have, and not only are we not shooting this object down, we saw it leave and disappear, but it's not firing back at us.
Not one shot.
Not one shot. Yeah, this is not the Japanese.
No, it wasn't Japanese.
This is not the Japanese.
We don't know what he was. We know it was not the Japanese.
So
the Japanese, by the way, at the end of the war, also said that at no point
they had
did they have airplanes in the vicinity of Los Angeles. What reason would they have to diminish their own abilities and skills? It doesn't make sense that it was Japanese in any way.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. What was your question for us?
That was it's pretty much it. After hearing this story, do you believe that this could have been of human origin? That's kind of my question, because
well, you haven't went into what do the experts say happened? Military experts, news media.
A couple things I saw. So when documenting the incident in 1949. The U.S. Coast Artillery Association identified a meteorological weather balloon. I think you guys have heard of that before. If you've listened to this podcast.
That is the government go-to. Apparently in the 50s and the 40s, we made the most indestructible, amazing weather balloons that have ever graced the sky of the planet.
Well, apparently we didn't stop. Apparently that continued through 2023. We still had that Chinese balloon last year.
The Chinese stole that technology.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They stole our technology.
Man. Yeah. So they identified the
meteorological. Shoot that one down either until we hit it with a sidewinder all of a sudden.
After it passed the
entire country,
the mainland U.S.
Sorry.
So they say that this balloon was sent aloft at 1 a.m. And it apparently started the shooting. And concluded that once the firing started, imagination created all kinds of targets in the sky, and everyone joined in. So
here's the difference, though, and here's why I think your question actually has meaning. We have pictures, photographs of all the spotlights on the object that's obviously not a weather balloon.
No. The objects shows light. The picture shows light.
Right. You can't really determine.
You can't tell what object might be.
Right.
So if you were the one that sent off that weather balloon, and you're seeing that, Los Angeles is in lockdown right now. They're blacking out. They're shooting. They're blowing stuff up in the skies. Yeah, maybe I should call him and be like, "Hey, sorry, that's not actually a Japan aircraft. That's the weather balloon I just sent out at 1 a.m." Also, who is sending out a weather balloon at 1 a.m.? Just saying. Apparently.
And now you're forgetting that it's an indestructible.
We are literally throwing everything we got at it.
Was it 14?
1,400 high explosive utility shells and countless. And that's not even counting the 50 caliber rounds that we were shooting at this thing, trying to bring it. And there's nothing that crashed.
If
this thing disappeared, it just went on its merry way.
See what this, if you want to kind of get a visual of what this would look like, all you have to do is pull up video from the Iron Dome going off in Israel today. And you'll see very quickly what a 50 cal looks like going across the sky.
Yeah.
It's, and we had multiples going off.
Oh, we had, yeah. Yeah, we
all
had,
firing in the same general direction.
Again, this was in the 1940s. Again,
Right.
this was in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
It started at 3 a.m. It was over well before daylight.
Right.
So they were firing based upon radar. These, if it was a weather balloon, it was well above where the searchlights would reach. They were firing blindly.
So if you look at the searchlights, the light stopped at the object. It doesn't continue
It doesn't
on.
show an object. Look at the picture. Hold on, I'll pull it up.
It shows a central figure that all that is, and
shows
the light
where the
doesn't
lights-
continue on.
Say what?
It stops at that object.
Eh,
The light is not. The light does not continue on. Look at that. Look at the picture.
The picture doesn't show any object.
Well, we'll post the picture on the website.
Yeah,
on
and
the podcast.
please look at the picture. Just look up Battle of Los Angeles. The picture will show up. But just
Here's the picture from the Los Angeles Times. It was.
if you
printed.
would, so if
Show me where the object is.
right there,
Yeah.
there's no. This light does not continue on.
There's no
So
object.
this light would just continue.
There's what, maybe, how many would you guess? 10, 15
A lot.
different searchlights?
A lot.
They come together at one point. How would you describe the object?
Oh, wait, you can't see an object. No,
There's
you,
no
you
object.
definitely can't see an object.
So my point is, they were firing blindly.
But there's something there.
The experts, well,
I mean,
the
people were
expert
seeing
says that
things.
it was in the middle of the night at 3 or 4 a.m.
I
we
mean,
saw
you
a
see a
weather
big
balloon.
old light in the sky. Yeah, you're seeing something.
Well, you saw a bunch of lights trying to find something. I agree with
I mean,
that.
that's a good. I mean, that's a good. It's a good point.
All I know is there's
But
zero
enough-
evidence.
But we are just firing explosives.
First of all, it was panic on airport, right? We assumed that it was Japanese.
At the very least, it's panic.
Yes, very least. And at the time, there were even reports of people describing the Japanese fighters that they saw. There was even reports of Japanese fighters that had been shot down in the street. Turns out they're Japanese. There were no Japanese.
There was no, yeah.
That much we do know. So was there something? Could it have been? Sure, absolutely possible. We don't have any proof.
So in 1983, the U.S. Office of Air Force History attributes this event to the case of war nerves triggered by a lost weather balloon and exacerbated. Gosh, I can't read. By stray flares and shell bursts from adjoining batteries. As an example of incompetence, the incident was derisively referred to the Battle of Los Angeles or the Great Los Angeles Air Raid. So,
Could
again,
it have been extraterrestrial? Absolutely. We have no way of knowing what the heck it was. There's no proof.
So I guess if we could save this for the end of it, I personally am of the belief that whether this incident is, Germans, Japanese, nobody, aliens, it seems like an incident that's pretty key in history, and I should have learned about it at some point.
Here's let me pivot to a different type battle. If you don't care, Jerry, I'd like to go next.
Oh, me.
Because the weather balloon theory is a wonderful theory for yours.
Hard to argue, right?
Not. But the best theory that they've come up with for mine is that a family of 11 folk were terrorized by a pair of alien ship gliding, shield wielding great horned owls. It blows me away sometimes the stories that our government will go through and try to convince people that what they saw they did not see. It's kind of like Men in Black with Tommy Lee Jones and Will Print or Fresh Prince, Will Smith.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the 1955 case, and it's called the Christian County incident or the Hopkinsville incident, where a family was under siege for over 12 hours by a large group of basically little green men. Now, these men aren't like the typical aliens you see with the big bulbous head and no ears and the big eyes, or what we refer to as the Greys. These guys look very much like the Kentucky Goblins that I covered in the bonus story. If you stick around for the bonus stories, you learn things on this program. I'm just saying, a lot of people, I didn't realize it, but there's a lot of people out there that just doesn't pay much attention to the bonus story. Shame on you. That's
Some
an
of the
awesome
most
story.
interesting material.
It absolutely is. But let's talk about the Sutton family. The Sutton family was a typical Kentucky family in the mid-50s. Hardworking, religious, didn't play around, wasn't known to be a dramatic family, wasn't known to be a family of a bad bringing up, if you will. They had a visitor. The Suttons did. One of the boyfriends. Lucky Sutton was the patriarch, the father. Billy Ray Taylor was visiting from Pennsylvania. He was visiting, I guess, to call on one of the mistresses. I don't know. I didn't get into that part of the story. That didn't concern me much. What did concern me was there's no running water in the house. And Billy Ray Taylor had went outside to get some water from the well. Came running back in the house, excited, said, "Hey, there's a bunch of lights back here in this gully behind the house. I just think I saw a spaceship land." Well, the family laughed it off, blah, 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 called him a crazy person. They went about their stuff. He keeps getting up, looking at the back windows because he knows what he saw. However, very shortly, the dog starts raising a ruckus on the porch. So Lucky and Billy Ray grab their guns, typical Kentucky folk, go out on the porch, and standing in front of them, 10 to 15 feet away, is a 3-foot alien being, small, green, pointy ears, with his hands raised up like he's trying to surrender. That was what they anticipated. And Billy Ray panicked and shot it with his .22, in which case Lucky unloaded the shotgun. The little green dude kind of bounced away, and they went back in the house. It wasn't very, very long after that they started noticing these little green dudes looking in the windows. They started shooting. They herded all the women and children into the bedroom. They put them, hid them under the beds or down. And for the next 4 hours, all hell breaks loose in this little house. They're shooting, they're doing this, they're doing that. They finally make a break for it. They get out there. They get out of Dodge. They get to the police station and convince the police department, "Hey, we're not crazy. This is happening." The police send a few dudes out. They scour the area. They don't see anything. They go away.
They didn't send a few. They convinced the police.
Yeah,
Do you know who they sent? How many?
a few.
4 police officers, city, 5 state troopers, 3 deputy sheriffs, and 4 military police officers from the nearby United
Those
States
came back later.
Fort Campbell.
Those came back later. They came back later because this is broken into 2 different attacks. So they come out and they try to continue their day. As soon as all the important people leave, the little green men come back. And it starts again for another 8 hours. Shooting the house, shooting through the windows, shooting through the walls. Every time that they think that they've got it wrapped up, Billy Ray and Lucky go out on the front porch at one time. These guys are 3 foot tall. They're on the front porch, and Billy Ray's looking around, and one of the guys is on top of the roof, reaches around, grabs him, and lifts him off his feet by his hair. 3 foot tall. The only way he was freed was Lucky, shot through the bottom of this porch and bounced the little dude away. At which time, after another 6 hours, they were able to get everybody into the trucks, get everybody to town, and that's when that response happened, when everybody came out, including the Air Force people and the Army people from nearby Fort Campbell. How would you feel in that situation? When
Well, I'll tell you what. If me and that many people fired at them for that number of hours, and they're in the windows and they're in the doorways, and we couldn't hit them, it wouldn't take that many hours before I decided to get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
I would leave.
So yeah,
At 2:15 is when everybody left the first time and it restarted.
these people were stocked with ammo.
Yes. Big time.
That's the one thing I think of. It's just like they were shooting for that long. They had some ammo stocked
And
up.
apparently extremely bad shots.
No, they would hit them. They would hit these guys and they would get hit and just bounce away. They had shields. According to every eyewitness who was questioned individually, they all said the same thing. Not one of their stories deviated from the other. The looks, the reports, the way that they acted when they were hit with a round, everything was the same, including when the police and the Army agencies went out and asked the questions of the neighbors. Yeah, we heard a bunch of shots. We didn't know what the hell was going on. We saw a bunch of lights in the sky, too.
If your neighbors hear shots for a 12-hour period and never come to see if you're okay, you need some better neighbors.
Or you don't want to get shot.
12 hours and they don't come to see
Or
if
call
you're
these call
alive?
authorities. Yeah.
By the way, according to Wikipedia,
Of course.
the inhabitants of this home was a woman and her 3 children that lived there. Single woman with 3 children. The other people were 2 sons from a previous marriage, Lucky Sutton, John Charlie Sutton, their wives, and one of their wives was Arlene, and Arlene's brother, O.P. Baker, and Billy Ray Taylor were there. Single woman with 3 kids, and the neighbors hear shots for hours and never come to make sure the single mom is still alive.
Crazy, right?
Need new neighbors.
Yeah. It was interesting. And the funny thing is, this is literally like about a 2.5 hour from my house. I really want to go check this place out. It's just as soon as I can, as soon as the weather breaks, I'm going to go on a bike ride and check it out.
Do any of it still their original home? Or
Probably
anything?
not.
I mean,
The
it's just
only-
shot through and
The only physical evidence that was left was that some of the Army agents found a small pool of iridescent material they couldn't identify. That was it. Isn't it nuts?
Crazy.
So when the federal government was asked about it, they said that they were terrorized by a pair of great horned owls.
Well, it was not only the federal government that said that, the local news media, apparently the guys that went out come back, and that was their assumption too. Again, there was 4 city police officers, 5 state troopers, 3 deputy sheriffs, 4 military police officers, and that was their assumption. One other thing, who knows if it's true or not? According to Wikipedia, all early articles did not refer to little green men. The color was added later by newspaper stories.
Right. There was no color of green.
Originally. So, not that that makes a difference. By the way, I looked up little green, the owls in question grow to be 25 inches tall.
Right.
I cannot imagine a friggin' 2-foot owl. I'm not saying that's what he was. I have no friggin' clue what he was. I'm just saying a 2-foot owl, I'd probably be getting my gun and shooting at the doggone owls too.
Yeah, that's one thing that
2-foot owl's scary.
Yeah, it is kind of weird though that. So there was 11 people in this house.
There was a total, I think, of 11 people, 5 adults, 6 children, and they sat for hours shooting at whatever the crap it was that they thought was aliens. Was it aliens? I don't know. Whatever it was, at this point, it's how many years? 55 years later, I think. Well, it happened in 1955, so 68 years later, 69 years later. We're not going to find out. There's no proof. There was no pictures at the time, so nothing, no evidence is going to come out. But
I think the thing that surprises me the most is these aliens that are capable of, extreme distance travel, all this technology to come to Earth, is not able to overcome these couple dudes with 22s.
and just sit around getting shot at. For
Right.
hours.
You just keep getting
Apparently,
shot at.
that was their reason for coming to Earth.
Just get shot at and.
It's crazy. It doesn't make sense for a bunch of adults to make up a story. It would be different if this story happened in the middle of the night for 5 minutes. This is 5 adults for hours shooting repeatedly.
Yeah.
We know they shot their windows of their house out. They shot through the walls. There was a lot of shots fired. So
They were scared to death
they were
about
scared.
something.
Something scared the holy piss out of them. Was it owls, as the government said? I have no clue.
Ain't no way. You're not ever going to convince me somebody was, oh, crap, sorry about that.
Well, I'd like to
Scared
think
to
that.
death of,
At the same time, I've never seen an owl above 6 inches tall either. So if I seen a 2-foot tall owl waddling up through my front door, I'd probably go get my gun.
so
You think
the-
eventually they would have shot?
You would have thought.
and not only
Supposedly
that,
they did, and there was like a metallic sound, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah, and there was an owl's not going to reach around the porch, the front porch, and pull you up by your hair.
No, that is definitely true.
Now, you started off by saying that these were good people. Blah,
Well,
blah, blah.
they were. I mean, yeah.
2 of them were carnies.
That doesn't mean
Carnivore.
they're bad people.
I didn't say they were. I'm just saying when you're talking about good, honest, religious people, carnies don't come to mind. That's all I'm saying. That's all
good
I'm
point.
saying.
I still don't see how that convinces anyone to
No.
shoot up your own house.
Exactly.
100%.
Totally agree.
You can be whatever you want to be. You're not going to convince me unless I see something to start shooting through my own walls. Just saying. This story scared. I mean, it was when I began hearing it, and I'm like, Brett, I'd never heard anything about this, and I've lived here most of my life.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Again, according to Wikipedia, French UFOologist Renaud Leslet argued in a publication that the best explanation of the case is that the residents had simply seen great horned owls. That's from a UFOologist.
Yeah. Well,
Does he know? Does he have the answer? I have no clue.
the
I'm not
French
saying
also
that
believe
is-
they'd rather eat snails than hamburgers, so I don't give them a lot of
Have you
credit.
ever tried escargot?
I have.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised you would even try it.
I did try it. It was on a cruise ship. I tend to try a lot of things I don't have to pay extra for on a cruise ship. See, that's the whole.
Especially something with the price of escargot, right?
Absolutely. A lot of times I was raised very, very poor, and if I find something I like, and this drives Jerry crazy, if I find something at a restaurant I like, I tend to stick with it, and I don't try things much off of that beaten path.
Again, as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story is he doesn't tend to do this. Without exception, the man finds one dish in a restaurant that he can tolerate. That's all he will order for the next 30 years.
Because why would I want to waste the money and buy something I
That he might
don't
not like.
like?
I will say I like a variety of different foods. I'm the same way. It's like if I find a meal that I like in a Mexican restaurant, I'm gonna order that every time.
Yeah,
because
it's
I
just-
like it.
Right.
Never deviate.
Now, on the cruise ship, I've paid for everything they have to offer. So if it's something like frog legs, I've never had frog legs, and I don't have to buy them. And if I don't like them, they're going to bring me something else.
Yeah.
I tend to try a lot more stuff, and
Frog legs are
escargot
good.
is one of those things. I tried.
Yeah, frog legs are just like chicken.
Yeah, they are
I see, I
literally.
didn't
They
like
say
it.
that about a lot of stuff.
You
It's
didn't like
true.
frog legs?
It
It
was
literally
on-
tastes like
It
chicken.
was on the bone, and I don't eat food on the bone.
What?
Yeah, I don't like anything off the bone.
Well,
Okay, have you ever had?
here's what he means.
Oh my goodness.
If he sees the bone, he can't eat it.
Yeah.
True story. The man cooks Thanksgiving dinner.
Yep.
He cooks the turkey, the whole complete turkey.
Yep.
He takes it out of the oven, sets it on the top of the stove.
I go
He
to a
leaves
different
the room. His wife comes in, pulls it off the
No,
bone,
no,
and he can then eat it. I'll bring her in
that
here.
That isn't how
She
it
will
works.
tell us.
Listen, this
She
is
comes
how
in,
it
pulls
works.
it off the bone. He then has
Listen.
a great Thanksgiving dinner.
This is how it works. I will cook a turkey. It is the most beautiful, golden, delicious turkey you will ever eat in your entire life. I set it upon the stove, and then I leave the kitchen.
And magically,
Magically, when I come back, the turkey has been separated into white meat containers and dark meat containers.
and bones no longer exist.
There are no bones. There are no anythings. It's beautiful. It's sliced, and I can have a great Thanksgiving
He is not
dinner.
joking. He is not exaggerating.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jerry, what you got for us tonight, my man?
One about as crazy as these two. If I can find it, I'll tell you all about it. The Val Johnson incident. Now, when it comes to, when it comes to UFO encounters, I tend to be skeptical, in case you guys haven't noticed. I
Brett,
tend to be skeptical.
did you
of a
hear
lot of
that?
I never realized that.
Jerry skeptical?
Unless if it's seen by many people. We did a show quite a while, 3 months ago, and if I remember right, you did the Phoenix Lights the
Right.
same night that I did the Rendlesham Forest incidents. I put a lot of belief into those because a ton of people saw this. That helps me to begin to believe that there's something there. A crap load of people saw it.
200,000 in the case of the Phoenix Lights.
Yeah.
That was
200,000.
Over several
Including
We
the
don't know
governor.
what the lights were. We know there was a bunch of friggin' lights.
And they
in the
were
sky.
quiet, and they were uniform, and they lasted a very long,
Long time. They didn't go away quickly. Things like that tends to make me far less skeptical. Another example. Do you guys remember the incident they called the Tic Tac UFO sighting? The Navy
Absolutely.
Of
pilot.
course. Yeah.
Wasn't seen by a ton of people, but you're talking about an extremely reliable person.
And
person-
With
technology.
video. Right.
I think there was some video. But an extremely reliable person, a person who in his profession tends to not be easily scared. He tends to be trustworthy. Otherwise, they're not going to give him the controls of a plane that costs $100 million. Those things make it believable to me. military, law enforcement officials, they tend to be far more believable.
The big crash that they got caught, that the cops caught on their chest cameras
Yeah.
too. That was
The one that you
Las
covered.
Vegas. Yeah.
Yep, you covered that one.
Yep.
Those things, anytime there's evidence, obviously, and lacking the video evidence or whatever, a ton of people, ton of witnesses, or people that are very believable, military law enforcement. And this one is exactly what I'm discussing today. He isn't military, but the Val Johnson incident occurred at approximately 1:40 a.m. about 35 years ago. The Marshall County Sheriff's Deputy, Val Johnson, was on night patrol along a rural section of State Highway 220 near Warren, Minnesota, when he drove into, in his words, a ball of white light. Now, it was in the early hours on August the 27th of 1979. Again, around 1:40 a.m., he was on patrol. He was about 10 miles outside of town, and as he was approaching an intersection, he stopped and looked both ways. His road dead-ended into the road ahead, and he noticed a very bright light that was approximately 8 to 12 inches in diameter, 3 to 4 feet off the ground, he said. And he said that the edges were very clearly defined, and the light was headed in his direction, but didn't appear to be on the road. It was hovering above the road. It also, he said, didn't appear to be the headlights of an oncoming car. He at first wondered if it was a small aircraft, possibly trying to make an emergency landing. Now, very quickly, very quickly, the light began to accelerate, and the light appeared almost momentarily to be directly in front of him and crashed with his patrol car. The sound of breaking glass, damaged metal, filled his ears, while his sight, he said, was overtaken by the light's brilliant glow. Then, with the patrol car still in motion, still moving, he blacked out. When he came to, the car was roughly 800 feet from where he last remembered it, and now stood sideways on the road, perpendicular to the road. The windshield was busted out. One headlight on his 1977 Ford LTD that the cop cars always used to use, one headlight was also busted out. Both radio antennas were built sharply, one of them on an almost exact 90-degree angle. Interestingly, later on, they figured out that the watch on his wrist and the clock on the dash of his car were both working, but were exactly 14 minutes slow. That wasn't, he didn't notice it. I forget exactly who noticed the time on the clock in the car. And at a later time, they figured out that his watch was also off by the same amount. Now, after he had requested assistance, a fellow Marshall County police officer, Everett Doolittle, arrived on the scene quickly. And he requested medical assistance, and Johnson, understandably, was found to be very much in a state of shock, complaining of very sore eyes. And he was transferred to a local hospital, the Warren Hospital, where he underwent several examinations and x-rays. And it was found that he had damage to his eyes, very similar to what a welder who's welding without a helmet would experience. Further examinations also showed slight damage to the inner eye, consistent with being exposed to a particularly bright light at very close range. Now, perhaps one of the most interesting details of the whole affair, at least at the scene itself, as we mentioned earlier, was the fact that the watch and the clock in the patrol car were found exactly 14 minutes off. Kind of hard to explain that one. Meridian French, an expert in his field from the Ford Motor Company, would examine the damage to the car for several days. Rather bizarrely, he concluded that the crack patterns and apparent sequence of fractures seemed to be due to inward and outward forces acting almost simultaneously. This is a Ford Motor Company expert.
Wow.
The incident turned Johnson into a local legend and a national media sensation. A lot of people wanted to interview him and get him on air talking about it. Years later, people still talk a lot about the incident. His squad car is actually preserved. They have a local county museum in Marshall County with his actual cop car still there. Still with a cracked windshield. Was never fixed, never ran again. The car's still there. There's a plaque out in front of it that says the UFO car. People still come from miles around to see it. It's always displayed at their annual Marshall County Fair. Of course, some little County, it's probably the biggest thing that's ever happened there. They're going to get the best use out of it they can. Sometime when the former Marshall County Sheriff Dennis Breck gives talks at the museum about the car and the night that his deputy drove it into a ball of light. Police did investigate and were never able to draw any conclusions. What's known as the Val Johnson incident remains one of the top 10 most influential UFO encounters, according to Jerome Clark, who wrote about it in his 1998 book, The UFO Encyclopedia. It's been covered by shows like the UFO Files, Mysteries at the Museum. Even to this day, people debate the legitimacy of the encounter in online forums. Now, what's known as the Val Johnson incident remains, as we said, one of the top 10 most influential UFO history encounters in history by most UFO experts. One thing is missing. We talked about the museum, his car that's still sitting there with a broken windshield. The one thing that you won't find is Val Johnson himself. Doesn't talk about it. Was offered by book. Several people tried to get him to write a book about it, to make movies about it. Had zero interest in any of that. For whatever it's worth, that makes me believe the story a little more as well. When it's a little bit different when someone is obviously trying to financially profit from the story. So, to sum it up, if you have a UFO story and you want me to believe it, and you're the only one, the only witness, this is the way to get me to begin to believe it. Be a trustworthy, reliable witness, spent his entire career in law enforcement, and not appear to be wanting or trying to financially benefit from it. So, was it a UFO? I have no clue.
Neither does he. The last thing that he's publicly said about it is that he saw a ball of light. I drove toward it, and suddenly it was in the car with me. It's unexplainable and remains so. I'm happy with my mental stability.
He also, when asked specifically if he thinks it was extraterrestrials, says no, he doesn't think so.
He says, yeah. He says, I doubt it. He said, to me, it's something I can tell at the bar, and that's about it.
But once again, if you want me to believe your story,
Right.
play it off like this.
Because every story we've talked about, it's always, what do they have to gain from this?
You have to consider it.
If you got a book that's coming out about, whatever incident, you have something to gain from it. If you have a movie deal that is in the works, you have something to gain from it. And it's always, okay, well, what's your motive? If you have no motive and you're just telling the story as it happened and not trying to gain anything from it, then you're like, okay, well, something happened.
Yeah, there's something there. Something cracked the windshield. Did he have a bad? And this is in a situation where, like, the front of the car is bashed up and he had an accident. He's trying to cover up having an accident because he's been on the sauce. You know what I mean?
Sure.
One
of the first things you think of.
Right. Oh, maybe he just had an accident in the cop car because he was coming home from a party or whatever.
Or it's 1 a.m. Maybe he just got tired and fell asleep at the wheel.
Right. And there's no indication of that. Even the guy at Ford said the cracks in the windshield are consistent with nothing we've ever seen before. That's just bizarre.
That's another one too. Just the guy at Ford, just his input on it, his expertise.
So the Val Johnson incident, do you think it needs more or less news coverage, Jerry?
I'd say, is there an in between?
So let me ask just real quick.
Sure.
So it was one of the top 10 most influential UFO sightings. What made it the most influential?
I think because they couldn't find holes in the story.
Okay.
It's my understanding. Anytime
you have a loss of time, that is one of the things that makes people in the UFOlogy realm believe that it's a close encounter of the third kind, that there's interaction, that they have stopped time or at least removed you from said time while they do whatever they do, be it who was the couple we covered a few weeks ago that was the first abduction? You know what I'm talking about up in the Northeast? They lost an hour, according to the clock on it, the watch and the clock in his car. These old cars used to have analog clocks, and they would just stop anytime there was an interaction. And then as soon as the aliens are gone, the clock would start. Well, you get back to town and you think it's one time and it's an hour or whatever later.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember talking about it.
Yeah. So that is one of the things that makes this, that coupled with the evidence of the windshield, coupled with
The
eye
injuries.
damage, and the fact that it went from being outside the car to inside the car without, just the light, makes it influential. Just so you know, the trigger, I really believe, is the time loss.
Yeah, because I'd never heard of this story before.
Neither did I.
So
To answer your question, when I was trying to wimp out by saying I think that the current coverage is satisfactory, which is simply, it's kind of like your alls. We're not going to come up with more evidence. We're not going to figure
Right.
out the answer to this.
These happened so long ago. This one was the newest one at 1979. I was 4.
Yeah, 44 years ago. So does it need more? I don't know that more is going to do anything to the story. I don't think it's going to shed more light on it. So, and
But
if
it doesn't need to be forgotten.
No. So you're right. From that standpoint, it would. If I have to give it one or the other, I would have to go with thumbs up on that one.
Brett?
no, I would agree. Thumbs up.
Yeah, me too. Because we take such a risk of losing these if we don't talk about them.
Right. Because nobody's talking about these.
Right.
Like in normal, atmosphere, normal conversation. Nobody's like, hey, do you remember whatever.
Right.
And it's definitely not taught in history class. So like you said, it's just
So
to keep it.
what about the Kentucky folk in Christian County? You guys, I believe, since I started that story, I'll go first. No way in the world are you going to believe me that 2-foot horned owls attacked this family for 12 hours.
And
Not
we're able to evade every gunshot.
multiple shots from multiple guns.
I think it's
and
interesting enough
to
that
have
this number
that
of people
that many
was
people
that scared that shut up
Yeah.
their own home.
Yeah.
That I don't know you're going to come up with more evidence. I don't know you're going to be able to shed more light on the story, but it certainly shouldn't be forgotten.
Yeah. So thumbs up for me on this one for sure.
I would agree.
I would also agree. Yeah, just in the fact that it's another, point to be like, for the defense of UFOs. Well, this happened.
Yeah.
Well, this happened. Well, this
Right.
happened. Like, and all these things are kind of sounding very similar. And yeah,
Right.
yeah, I think,
Battle for Los Angeles.
yeah, this is one that when I was researching it, this is one thing I was really wondering why this is not taught in schools. Like, why this incident isn't ever even just as like hey, this, after Pearl Harbor, we were in a really scared situation and we started just firing at nothing. Even just, or a weather balloon, just that being talked about in schools as a teaching moment of like, hey, even in times of fear, we need to, kind of think about what we're doing. No, it's not taught anywhere. It's you have to dig for this stuff. So and just if you're just thinking about it in that context, I would say 100% thumbs up. I think something actually did happen.
I 100% agree.
So I would say double thumbs up for that.
And the fact that the ominous at this point, for me, government says weather balloon automatically equals alien for me. I'm just saying. That's where I'm at. So thumbs up on the Battle for Los Angeles.
So you think that we had aliens over United States last year?
No, we knew that was a Chinese balloon.
we
What
knew
I
that was-
didn't know is why we
okay.
let it just glide all over our country without shooting it all the way back to China as soon as it crossed Alaska. That's what I
Well,
didn't
I
understand
differ
about
with
that.
you guys. I think that in all odds that the experts were probably right. This probably was a weather balloon. But more so than that, I 100% agree with Brett that why isn't this mentioned?
Yeah.
If you are a history teacher and you want to turn your kids into interested students instead of guys that are sitting here using toothpicks to hold their eyelids open, listening to you go on about the same stuff they've heard forever, bring up this. And as Steve mentioned, it doesn't need to be an entire episode. Spend 5 minutes and tell them if you're interested. You know, in today's world, everyone's got the internet. Go to the library, look it up on your phone, do some research, but spend 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Give them enough teaser to get them interested. Why in the world it wouldn't be used at least to get students interested in topics like the World War is beyond me. So more so than any of the rest, this one needs more coverage.
Also, if you want to hear more about Kentucky goblins, check out one of our previous episodes and listen to the bonus story, which is coming up very soon.
Man, that episode is really interesting. And if you'll stick around for us for just a few commercials, we have another great story to tell you.
Hi, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. When it comes to buying a home, the process can be overwhelming and confusing. With so many options, it can be hard to know where to start. That's why it's important to work with a certified mortgage loan originator. I have the knowledge and expertise to guide you through the process and find the best mortgage option for you. I will work with you every step of the way to ensure that you are getting the best deal possible. So if you're looking to purchase or refinance, please reach out to me at 502-680-0953. So don't take on the stress of buying a home alone. Work with me and I will make your dream a reality. Trust the professionals and make your home buying experience a positive one. MLS ID 448908, DAS Acquisition Company, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, MLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is equal housing opportunity.
If you want us to review or rate your product on air, if you have suggestions for new episodes, awesome ghost stories, or anything else, please reach out to us. Our email address is newsworthywithsteveandjerry@gmail.com. Our text number is area code 540-709-1318.
And now, back to the story.
Tonight, we're going to talk about Red Cloud. Red Cloud was an Oglala Lakota Sioux chief, statesman, and military strategist who became the only Native American leader of the Plains Indians to win a war against the United States. Red Cloud's War, 1866 to 1868, forced the United States government to agree to Native demands without stipulation, establishing the Great Sioux Reservation of 1868. Red Cloud is often referenced as the chief of the Sioux Nation. Following descriptions were given to him in the 19th century, but as the Sioux government was decentralized, he was one of many chiefs and the only leader of the band known as the Bad Faces. In his youth, he had a part in many trading expeditions that camped near Fort Laramie, and so acquired a great and vast knowledge of the white man, more so than most, if not all, of his contemporaries in leadership. According to modern scholars, including Bob Drury and Tom Calvin, this gave him greater insight into his later interactions with the U.S. government and its representatives. Following his victory over the United States in Red Cloud's War, he negotiated the closing of the Bozeman Trail through Sioux territory, the abandonment of U.S. forts, and created the Great Sioux Reservation, which stretched across modern-day South Dakota, all the way up into North Dakota, down to Nebraska. He traveled to Washington, D.C. at least twice to negotiate with U.S. President Grant, and became so well known and respected as a representative of his people that he became the most widely photographed Native American of his time. His efforts to establish peaceful coexistence with the white man eventually became his undoing, as the United States government policies of ignoring every treaty anytime it suited them and advancing their own agenda began to confine the Sioux to smaller and smaller reservations. The Dawes Act of 1877 broke up the Great Sioux Reservation, and although Red Cloud opposed this move, he did not encourage any future or further armed resistance and helped his people adjust to the reservation system. He finally died of natural causes in 1909 at the Great Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota.
And Jerry, if you can't see the light,
Be the light.